Hello there, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to another episode of Cookiecast. Today on Cookiecast, it's the wrestling podcast, Getting Over. It's a special episode. It's not actually talking about reviewing a pay-per-view just yet. We've got pay-per-views to come in the future. It's just a bit of a roundup and a recap and a bit of a chat about the wrestling the way it is at the moment. We've got special guests, which is nice, so let's get started. This is Cookiecast Getting Over.
RVD live on the podcast.
No, it's 10:20.
No, you.
Yeah, it's 10:20, not 4:20.
Oh.
I knew he'd fucking say something.
Yeah, throw it all off by standing up.
Of course he is. Well then,
Hello.
here we are again.
Again.
And it's another first. A first time in person on the wrestling podcast for this man.
Here he is.
What a time to be alive.
I mean, that's surely a criminal offence.
Think about the poor lad though. Them 3 round trips is no
I
how.
know, unbelievable.
3 round trips.
Can you believe it?
I haven't seen a t-shirt for the...
So that's yeah.
Shh, don't worry about the continuity. Oh shit.
Dirty bastard.
So, oh man, what's happening here? Right. Welcome along, everyone. It's time for
Once again
everybody's favourite Cookiecast-based wrestling podcast. Getting Over. What number are we up to, Paul?
Oh Jesus!
Put
I
him on the
would
spot.
go with
9.
I think.
Sounds right to me.
I'm pretty sure it's 9. Obviously the
Custodian.
I don't know. Yeah, I don't know what you class him as really.
Facilitator.
Oh, I love it. Absolutely love it.
It's one of them words where you like to say it, not so much spell it.
Facilitated.
It's a bit of a change of...
What did you have us on?
9. Is it 8?
Swing and a miss.
Have we just breached double figures?
Double figures time-wise.
We're still on. So yeah,
Oh, so it's officially.
the ladder match halfway through, yeah?
Yeah, so it'll be 10 years in the making. I'm trying to work out what the WrestleMania tags were, but it was 20 was where it all begins again.
Yeah.
So it needs to be episode 20. It's where it all begins again.
So it's a bit of a different one this time as well because we've not actually got...
really got an actual. We could predict
Let's not.
Let's not.
the goings on at Crown Jewel.
Let's not.
Let's really not.
Is it Crown Jewel?
Yes.
See, I mean,
Kicks
that's
in there.
lazy. They're not even. They've started reusing the names.
What, you mean like, because they don't have like WrestleMania every year?
Yeah, but
or Survivor Series.
especially when they do it, the specials in the Kingdom of Saudi Arabia.
I remember back in my day where it was the same one. If the pay-per-view was in February, you knew it was no way out. There was no messing around with it. Before they started dicking around with none of this over-the-limit bullshit.
Stomping around.
Yeah,
Don't-
stomping
I mean,
ground.
Don't even get me started.
In the comments, I think
Stomping
people
on
have
my crown
accused
jewels.
you of sitting on the fence and not really saying how he truly feels.
One thing that always appealed to me as somebody who didn't particularly like Christmas was the fact that the December one was always Armageddon. It just felt right.
Wow.
Still. Anyway, I'm currently sat with this delightful title, although I am not. I'm not the current
title
owner.
holder.
Myself.
There he goes.
Oh yeah. Oh god.
Just
It's a good thing I'm sat down.
mind your ego on the way past there, Paul.
The doors have been widened between the last and this podcast. Just at one point, I did think we were going to have to take the roof off and airlift him in. But we managed to get those extra wide doors.
So we've not
turned sideways though.
We've not got what and shove it straight. Yeah. There you go.
You never do that. What are you doing? Why are you feeling all right?
Much like the rest of my life, I didn't finish that one off. So.
I see.
Well,
Proper craft time again.
I was going to say something really.
So, as we know, Paul is currently sat there with the pay-per-view predictions championship.
Will I keep it? Will I retain?
Well, seeing as we've not got
My
predictions to
championship.
make, should we find out what happened?
I think we're going to have to, because I don't want to have to give up this championship so soon after winning it, like you did.
Okay.
So you want to wait till the next wrestling podcast to see who won or not?
No, absolutely not. Because I'm pretty
He's
sure.
going to retain, isn't he?
So I'm putting it on the line against
Fighting
last month's predictions, or the
championship.
last chance, the last pay-per-views predictions.
Okay.
Let's see
So,
if someone can take it from me.
if you cast your mind back to
The long hot summer of
Hell in a Cell.
there we go.
Now, at the time of recording last time, there was only 3 announced matches.
And then they went mental.
I
And
know.
announced about 6 on the day.
And as we discussed, we thought they might absolutely panic and just book themselves into oblivion.
I'm just wondering, Cara, I'm just wondering if I can very quickly find the podcast, not podcast, Jesus, the wrestling group chat, which was literally message,
Yeah.
message.
They've done it again.
Can you
They've just put another bloody
can you
message.
just quickly give me pics for this?
Pretty much though, I reckon that our group chat messages on that day must have been like their booking meeting was. It was like, right, we've got these, we've come up with this, what do you think about that? Job done. That was it, sorted. So yeah, at time of recording we had 3. They then extended that by another 5 matches.
Oh dear.
So all that stuff about, I wonder if they'll keep it to NXT length of sort of pay-per-view. No, didn't happen.
I remember logging into the network the day after thinking, this should come in under 3 hours, because they only had so many matches. 3 hours 20.
But then
What the fuck?
you would have also then had that point in time where you were like, oh, alright, okay, so they've made it like the full-length pay-per-view, but at least I've got a good Hell in a Cell finish to look forward to. Oh, wait.
No.
Okay.
We'll get to that though.
So, shall we get stuck in? Paul, as the reigning, defending, undisputed Cookiecast pay-per-view predictions champion of that chair, do you want to know what score you got first, or do you want to keep?
So,
do you want to keep that to last? Should we keep yours to last?
As the champ, I will have my predictions results last.
Okay, so in no particular order, I got 1
Oh dear.
actual 1,
Oh
which was terrible.
my.
It was none of the 3 that we predicted, actually on the podcast.
So you were 0 for 3.
The only one I got right was the fact that, and I've written it down here as VR plus BS. BS was goddamn right, which was the Viking Raiders and Braun Strowman won their match. The gentleman to my right, Mr. Moore, also going 0 for 3 on predictions made on the podcast,
Oh god.
but did manage to pull it round with 3. Andy
Hello.
got 2 of the 3 right that were on the podcast.
Excellent. And then a further.
Only stuck away another 3 predictions, giving him a grand total of 5.
I'm not gonna lie.
Twitchy,
I'm a little nervous.
twitchy bum time.
A little nervous.
So, of the 3 that were predicted on the podcast, Paul was the only person stupid enough to pick that Rollins would return. May I just add once again, what the fuck was that finish? But that was the point that he pulled from there. So, did he manage to get at least another 4 to draw? No, he did not. He got another 1. So not only did he not even come second, but he did come third because I was even worse. So it's time, Paul. It's time to wave that title goodbye. I'm waiting for the it's been emotional bit.
Take good care of her.
I can't promise.
I'm pretty sure that's how it always goes when titles exchange, right?
Oh, look at this. Oh,
Here he is, and new Cookiecast pay-per-view predictions champion, Mr. Andrew Cook. I'm not.
oh dear.
I'm not even sure where that title's going to
I
end.
wonder what the thumbnail for this particular
That'd be class.
podcast might be.
That would be class.
Good God, what on earth is going on here?
So, any of you people, and these lower beings here might know of a TV programme called The League. This will be known as the Ruxin era.
Cookie era.
Oh God.
Also, anybody who follows us on any of the social medias, do look out for any upcoming promo videos.
Oh my word. I love it.
That's right, gentlemen. It's a whole different ballgame.
He's going to start cutting promos.
It just feels so right.
I can only assume you've got your
Quite clean.
Bray
Yeah.
Wyatt Fiend based stuff ready to rock and roll.
Just you wait. I've been going through my collection of masks for
Jesus.
just this moment.
Well, it has finally happened. He's taken the title, but you know, Paul. Always next time. Mate.
Let's put it this way: it's a hard title to defend.
But you
No
mean
one's put up a successful defence yet.
nope? We might as well rename it the 24/7 Championship
Oh,
at this
right.
point.
24/7, 7-Eleven.
Yeah, exactly.
Was it TV European? I love the fact that he keeps sticking in TV when WWE have just never had a television title. It's like,
Well, Vince hates the term.
Before I tell the story, I'd like to just point out no cats were harmed in the making of this story. Day before yesterday, one of the cats was on the side. Dwayne, funnily enough, was on the side
boo.
in a particular position, and I was like, he goes for the pin. I was like, Leanne, count this. She comes over, she's like, I was like, yes. So pinned Dwayne to become new House 24/7 champion.
Excellent. I love it.
What did we think to Hell in a Cell? Were we bothered?
It is the latest in a long line of pay-per-views from them that I was struggling with towards
For
the
him
end.
to just go, no.
I liked
You
it.
loved it. 'cause it was-
I'd like to start by saying I have opinions.
Oh.
God, I was wondering where he was going with that.
Can we address any additional points that need to be handed out? Got any extra points you want to hand out? I mean, obviously I've already taken the title. But
He said this before. And
Yeah.
I don't really know what he was getting at.
No, I'm a little worried by this. I'm a bit worried that you're going to come out with something niche that's going to be like,
I don't know if you want to give any additional points for anybody getting any predictions absolutely nailed on.
Such as...
The Fiend.
Go on, you have to elaborate.
What was it I said about the title?
Well, he didn't win the title
Right? Why is that?
because he didn't win the match.
And why was that?
Because the ref stopped it.
Right?
I've no idea
Yeah,
where
I'm
he's going
lost.
with
But
it.
from all the stuff that I'd seen and all the stuff I read, it was all like, I mean, there was the red light nonsense.
Yeah, that was bollocks. Absolute bollocks.
It's just
Was it you that started saying, "Are they going to start playing the videos?" And Stu's like, "I hope not, because it really ruined the match." And then next thing is like everything went red, and I'm like,
But have you seen the photographs that surfaced online as well? Because a couple of years ago they decided to make the cell red, which was a mistake as well. And then they put the red light on. So to the people in the cheap seats that are still relatively not cheap, they just watched a red square for...
so the people in the cheap seats that are still blind at this point in time, I can't see certain colours. Is I think what you mean in there.
I had written some things down. One of them was just in capital letters, that ending, which was just... which has now led us into the crown jewel thing, but I guess we can go into that. Two things that stood out for me was why firstly did Matt pick Charlotte to win, but then why did they even bother with that?
Because Bailey needed to cut her hair.
But there was absolutely no way that Bailey was going to lose that match, and it happened.
Did I say that on the podcast as well?
I think you've said it on every podcast we've done that, Paul, for the last.
You couldn't have said it on the podcast because the match hadn't been released by the time when we did the podcast.
Yeah, that is true. That is true.
But you might have said it in text.
But
I can
Keep
quickly-
talking.
but me, Andy, and yourself all agreed with that. Matt was the only person to pick Charlotte, but then she had it for a night, essentially, didn't she? She lost it very quickly afterwards.
She can't have lost it on Raw.
No, but as in SmackDown, because it was the SmackDown Women's Championship. Which
was about it for 5 days.
But they've made it for like they've made her now 10-time champion, so it's edging ever closer.
This is the thing though, but there was something that came out on like Bleacher Report or Wrestle Zone or whatever it was that it came out, where there was a rumour doing the round that they wanted to get her to 16 as quickly as possible, so that she can be better than her dad.
Which in a lot of ways makes a lot of sense, but at the same time,
if they're hollow wins,
it's weird though, because all of Ric Flair's 16 things are not all in the WWE.
Nope.
Yeah, didn't he say
So
something?
then
Like
doesn't that doesn't mean?
and
It's
there's
a
the
weird
fact that he thinks it's more. He seems to think it's 23 or something. I think because there's other world championships that he won in other companies that either weren't recognised or. I don't know how it works, but there's something that I've read before where he says that he feels he's been world champion 23 times or something like that.
or is that like the Goldberg thing that every episode the number went up to like
Yeah.
100?
It wouldn't surprise me.
He's accidentally had another 50 matches in between one Monday Nitro and the next. So yeah, that was a strange one for me. And also as well, we talked about the Sasha Becky thing, and what like I've written down, where does Sasha go from here because she lost to Becky. Guess we now know the answer to that question, because the answer was SmackDown. So off she goes. It's again different dynamic for them, because Bayley's always been like sort of the tag along in that scenario, whereas now it seems to have been roles reversed. Quite liking the new Bayley, to be honest.
It's got quite a good dynamic as well, because Bayley's not the best on the mic, but he's probably a decent wrestler, and Sasha's the reverse of that. She's quite good on the mic and being the kind of bitch heel kind of thing, and doing that kind of mic work for Bayley, I think kind of works quite well. I think like I saw a bit from Miz TV up on Friday, and it worked well. But yeah, it's I don't know. I don't like the Hell in a Cell pay-per-view. I just think it's really. I think the Hell in a Cell used to be something special, and now it's a pay-per-view, and you get 7 matches all in the cell, and it's all just give us some wrestling matches. Maybe it's just just normal wrestling matches, which is kind of a bit daft when you say. I'm actually really looking forward to the War Games, but
but it is the pay-per-view that needs to go away the most, because it, like you say, the Hell in a Cell needs to be used as the end of the feud.
You can't, and it's the big end to a big feud. It's not just it's a storyline that's been for 3 months. It's something that's built up over a while, and it's just.
This is one of the mistakes that I think they've made for a few years though now, is because I completely get the logic of them having a themed pay-per-view, fine, but why not bin off TLC, bin off Hell in a Cell, and those are things to be used to blow off storylines, not to just have. We know it's coming, so like there's no kind of. It doesn't add any value to the story. The only exception to that for me is Money in the Bank.
I was just going to say that.
I think Money in the Bank.
That's
works.
the one that's sort of come out that, in a way, needed its own pay-per-view, because it was the premise of it is a good idea, and I just wonder if they're going to now go back to having it where before, when it first came out, they had one for Raw and one for SmackDown.
In many ways, though, it was like the Hell in a Cell, the TLC, whatever, is the end, whereas Money in the Bank essentially is the beginning. Yeah. So I think that's the difference for me. But yeah, so. In terms, is there anything else from Hell in a Cell?
Well, I was going to say they kind of missed a trick with what happened on like the 2 days earlier with Lesnar beating Kingston for the belt, because to me there was still more in the Kingston versus Orton story, and that could have used Hell in a Cell as the final chapter. For me, but it
was one of them though where.
What do I know?
The first SmackDown on Fox became more important than the pay-per-view, as was obvious with the announced matches and all the rest of it, and that kind of leads us on to something for today's, like, So we've had about a month now. How do we feel about it? SmackDown on Fox.
I've only seen little clips here and there personally.
It's pretty lukewarm. It was bigged up massively beforehand, and since it's happened, what has changed?
There's only one right answer to that question as well, because it's the set. Everything else is pretty much the same for me.
It's
Pyro's back.
Yeah.
It's the kind of, right, well, how do we get people on board with the wrestling? Put in non-wrestlers? You're like, okay then. So Kane...
Vasquez. Vasquez.
Yeah. I know it brings in a different kind of group of people, but it's nothing. It was like this big splashy thing, and then people have gone, but we've not done anything with that yet. And obviously it's building up to Crown Jewel as well. And I think the problem is that they've used the Raw and SmackDown to build up the Crown Jewel kind of thing, which, it'd be interesting to see what the viewership is on the network of people that are not in Saudi Arabia, because I don't want to see Tyson Fury against Braun Strowman.
The biggest feel on this is nobody cares.
Yeah, pretty much.
Nobody cares. And I mean, the weeks that this has been going on, I've spent various points in time sort of saying, and I didn't want to hurt anyone's feelings, I didn't want to sort of say the wrong thing at the wrong time, but I like certain things in a certain way. So Fox had this whole thing where they were like, we're going to take wrestling and we're going to make it a legitimate sport. We're going to turn it into a sport rather than a sports entertainment sort of thing. And like you're saying, so how do we do that? Let's bring non-wrestlers into it. No, that's not what anybody wanted to see. And I've said to Stu a few times at this point that when you put the wrestling world up against these sports personalities, Tyson Fury, Cain Velasquez, it doesn't go together. One side of it's doing one thing and the other side of it's doing something else, and they're trying to make both sides do the same, and it just doesn't work. I watched that whole, I still don't know what to call it, press.
It was like a press conference for the matches for Crown Jewel.
I think clusterfuck is the word you're looking for.
So it was like over half an hour long, and one of the things that struck me first off was you'd have people walking out on like the ramp, the top of the ramp. Normally there'd be like tens of thousands of people screaming and like there'd be music playing and this, that and the other. The silence as these people walk to the bone, and it's just silent. It was really weird. It was like
they did the announcements around the time that they were the debut thing of SmackDown was in Vegas. I'm pretty sure they were in Vegas.
Sounds about right.
That presser was in Vegas.
Oh, well, it was the first episode was in LA.
But how many people will be in Vegas? And if you'd have said to them, we've got WWE superstars, we've got like the lineal heavyweight champion of the world, as they like to wheel him out. Yeah, look it up.
What?
Yeah.
Oh, is that what they're calling fucking Fury?
Yes.
Fuck's
So,
sake.
like, if you'd have said, get yourselves in here for half an hour for nothing, they'd have had an atmosphere. They'd have had that.
Yeah.
And they absolutely dropped the ball with that.
There was so much wrong with it. It was just like a catalogue of how do we do it wrong. The silence was just eerie.
I just don't know what they were going for, because if you see, like you said, a press conference for a big fight, they're both in the room together.
Yeah.
They're both sat there. The promoters sat between them, and they get up and either talk shit at each other or throw some punches at each other. No, they came out and looked like they were accepting an Oscar.
And there was
nobody wants to watch that for starters.
early on.
So,
there was this thing where they announced every single person involved in this press conference, whatever the hell they were calling it, has agreed to settle their differences in the ring.
yeah.
It's not going to be the UFC where they're all fighting before the fight and then there's the pre-fight before the fight. It's not that. and it's not going to be this. They're going to come out separately. They're going to come out individually. They're going to come out and say that. It's like, why? What is the actual point right now?
They're trying to achieve something but missing the mark, and not missing it by a little bit. Because you think, if you nearly got it, then fair enough. It's miles off. It's. I don't know. You just think, we need, if you want people to like wrestling, you've got to put on wrestling matches. You can't have these like.
It's not hard, is it? It's not a difficult science and stuff like that. People watch wrestling for the in-ring action, sometimes for the promos. Fair enough, but 99% of the time, people tune in to watch the athleticism in the ring, and they're just not giving that to people at the minute.
And I think the thing you've got, and the complete difference is that you're bringing in people like Tyson Fury, who his job is to hurt people, and it doesn't matter how it looks. The same with like the UFC guy. He's there to hurt somebody. Doesn't matter how it looks. The kind of dark secret is that actually wrestlers don't want to hurt each other. They want to make it look like they're hurting somebody in a really exciting way. And I think that's where it all fails, because it just looks...
I think, in a way, it's like... Everybody has known for a long time what it is. And like, you can understand them wanting to make it look more real. But people don't also then want their intelligence insulting, in the sense of, we know that Tyson Fury is this big thick meathead that wants to actually knock 10 bells out of someone, but he's not genuinely going to be allowed to do that in a wrestling ring. So why would we believe that? We know it's different to boxing, and all of a sudden, because he's there now, he's going to start actually beating people. It's not going to change anything. The fact is that actually his training in that particular aspect is of a much lower standard than somebody who has maybe worked and earned that spot for the last 10, 12, 15 years, whatever they might have dedicated to it. But yet, they're still giving all the Saudi money to this guy just because
15 million
he's got
apparently.
I'm not...
I don't see how they're going to have anything that's not going to be a boxing match. They're going to end up saying it's them two versus each other, but on the day, they're probably going to just go, oh, by the way, the rules are it's a boxing match.
Well, there's a few. Like I said, I don't really want to give Crown Jewel too much time because of what it is, but like, this is kind of like the bigger thing at the moment. But like, one thing I will say in comparison of the two, for want of a better term, attraction matches, if you like, with Vasquez and Brock, and then Fury and Strowman, is that Vasquez is actually. Oh, I keep calling him Velasquez. Unbeknownst to me until a few hours before I set off to come to do the recording today, he's actually been wrestling. He's been wrestling under a mask in Mexico.
So I was going to say, it's like, I don't have as much of a problem with him coming in as Fury coming in, because he's actually made the transition now to actually be. He's made the sort of jump, and he wants to be a wrestler full time.
This has been coming for a long time. It's not like how it's been portrayed. They just wheeled him out or something. Yeah. This has been coming for a long time. Yeah. It's been on the cards for ages. Yeah. Like you say, he's been making that transition for a while now. I was saying to you earlier about how I don't understand why we create these characters of the beast, the this, the that, the other, and then make these massive characters look weak.
Oh, they've been doing it for years.
I get it, but I don't. That's an element for me that doesn't work. Like, I've seen too many videos in the last couple of weeks of Brock Lesnar. I mean, I remember when Brock Lesnar came into it, and nobody had seen anything like Brock Lesnar. And in a lot of ways, there is nothing like Brock Lesnar. You know, for a man that is on one of the biggest stages in the world, to be quite a, he's a very private person. He lives in the middle of nowhere. All the stuff. He's got a big fence around his property because he says himself he doesn't want to deal with people because he doesn't like people, and that sort of stuff. So those two sort of contrasting things. There is nothing like Brock Lesnar, and then the next thing, he's scared. Oh, we've never seen him scared. It's like, why are we doing this? You know, it would have had more impact if it had been like two titans coming together.
Yeah.
Rather than, oh, he's scared. Because I was saying, yeah, we were hoping you might be able to clear this up. Brock Lesnar versus Braun Strowman.
Was it Rumble from a couple of years ago?
No, it was in.
It's recent, isn't it?
It was in Saudi Arabia, wasn't it?
So how was saying that?
It's happened in the past year.
It was. So it was when Roman had his cancer thing.
Yeah, the cancer
As
thing.
discussed.
He had the cancer.
Was that the first? No, because the first one was the Greatest Royal Rumble, wasn't it?
Which Strowman won.
So it must have been the first crown jewel.
Was that...
And it was...
Where it was...
Lesnar versus Strowman.
Was that where it was DX versus the Brothers of Destruction?
No, that was Super Showdown in Melbourne.
There we go. Yeah, so...
I think that's
so
right.
we were talking about... But that kind of proves the point of how memorable that was, but how much better they could have done it. I've just all of a sudden thought, we've been talking this whole time, and like the connotations that must be coming across, we need to change the name. It's got to be Royal Grumble, surely, because this is where it's headed.
Until we start saying positive things about it, I suppose.
I just find that there's yeah, I can't speak. The reason why I like wrestling, and the things that I like about wrestling, is you get a storyline, and you get invested into a storyline. It's like your favourite television programme. It's like something that you've watched and you want that payoff at the end. And ultimately, there's so many things recently that the payoff's been shit. You know, we go back to the Hell in a Cell. We've all said The Fiend and the Firefly Funhouse has been the best thing we've seen on the main roster WWE stuff. And what was the payoff? It was bollocks. Now, unless there's something that's going to come from it, that's, you know, is Seth going to turn heel? And there's been like elements of it. Kind of think, you know, is the idea that the Fiend's going to kind of bring out the bad element in Seth again? You know, obviously the burning down of the Firefly Funhouse, and stuff like that. And you just think, and I know, I mean, I don't know how much influence is going into the NXT stuff. But you kind of look a little, you know, I'm not even looking at like other kind of wrestling companies, but you just need to just look next door. You think they're building stories, you know, and even with the move to like, proper telly, they're still building a story. You know, they've had the Undisputed Era, they've got Tommaso Ciampa coming back. They've got Finn Balor coming in and, you know, spoilers, turning heel, you know, and they're building a story. They're building a story around the title. They're building a story around people returning to the thing. And it's not in a, oh shit, we've got to get a payoff in like 2 weeks, hopefully. It's a, you know, get invested in these people. Yeah, maybe they're not the greatest on the mic, but some of the people there are absolutely fantastic on the mic. But we're not going to rush this payoff for, you know, we've got pay-per-view next week. We've got, you know, use the pay-per-views to build a story. You know, people don't mind maybe a poor finish if it tells a story. But some of the finishes are just, you sit there and go, right, no. You know, and what you really wanted is that Hell in a Cell match. I wouldn't have cared if the Fiend had come out and just squashed Rollins, and that's what should have happened. It should have been done. Right, the Fiend is this thing, and now, you know, Seth Rollins has got to go and, you know, come back with something and build himself up. But it's just like, no, he's now still the babyface champ. Oh, and what have we done with him? Everybody hates him now. You know, the fans hate him. You know, they've just keep on dropping the ball. The thing where, you've announced that you two are together. So let's put Becky and Seth. No, everybody hates that. What shit? Bin that off. What else can we do? And you're just like, just stick with something. If you stick with something, even if people hate it at first, maybe once they get invested into it, they'll like it instead of these like quick crap payoffs.
Snap decisions the whole time, isn't it?
Going back to the Firefly film, I mean, we've discussed it multiple times. Hands down, the single best thing that they have done in a long time. I'd seen a couple of videos where they've been sending Bray Wyatt out to like news programs as the version of Bray Wyatt from Firefly Funhouse, and it's just because I think the people like on these news programs and stuff don't get it.
No.
Yeah.
So they're like, oh, you're going to be fighting this weekend, and he's like, I'm not fighting. The Fiend, he's fighting at the weekend, and they're like, oh right, yeah.
That's amazing.
And
like,
he
when
was
was the last
doing
time someone
really well.
When was the last time someone like properly committed to the character?
Exactly.
Like that.
He's properly on board with it, and it's paying off in a multitude of ways. Like they've had some of the best stuff. Like how many times have we speculated about something that could be this or it could be that? Your audience is doing 90% of the work for you. You can just put something on the screen and leave it. All the conspiracy theories about like that word in that sentence means that your audience is doing the majority of the work for you with just little tweaks here and there. And it's what has been needed for so long, and it's working so well. So what have we learnt? Because it feels like not a lot. So we've got this amazing idea. Where's the next one? Where's the... it does feel... I was watching the Ric Flair, Hulk Hogan interaction in the ring.
Fucking I forgot.
And at the point that they were like gonna fight, and Ric Flair could barely move across the ring, it was painful to watch. I think it was more painful for him to try and do it.
That guy is absolutely batshit crazy though. That he, even at this point in his life, pretty sure that if they asked him to, he'd still elbow drop his suit jacket, because he's just absolutely he'll die in the ring, because I don't think it'll ever leave him.
As horrible as it sounds like that, you'd imagine that's kind of how he wants it to be.
In a way, he's devoted his life to it, so fair play to him in that respect. But like, one thing I was going to say when you said about the Rollins and the finish and stuff, I feel like recently they've done this too many times where they've like booked themselves into a corner, because the fact that they actually set that up as the Hell in the Cell with the Fiend and Rollins, that never really had to be. There was no link really between them before that kicked off.
Well, that was their first match, wasn't it?
Why did they need to do that? So then I think they realised once they'd advertised it, they had to still put the match on, but there was no other way out of it. So then after that had been done, why then have they then announced the rematch for Crown Jewel with cannot be stopped for any reason?
When I saw that, I honestly thought someone had doctored that and put it on like the
the Slammy for lengthiest stipulation
what's his
goes
name?
to
Matthew, who does
Botchamania. Yeah.
I thought he'd put it on as like a sort of it's actually a Falls Count Anywhere match, but he'd then put on the cannot be stopped for any reason, like even if your mum says so or something. And I was like, that's got to be a piss take. I didn't realise it's actually what they've put on the posters for it. It's like, what the fuck? That makes it sound like it's been booked by a 10-year-old.
I will keep bringing it back to the same thing that just seems to be a theme on this podcast, which is how many times have we gone to predict a pay-per-view, and how many times has it gone down the line of, oh, you know what, no, I'll tell you what is going to happen, so here's what's going to happen, and the excitement behind, oh, so no, the twist is, and just that, blah, 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 blah. And then, when we come back to review it, 9% of the time it's, well, we come up with a better way of it being done, just in this room, and instead, what they went with was shit out.
The other thing as well is, this very week, a rival podcast has been launched by WWE themselves.
What? They're trying to capitalise on our popularity?
Yeah, I know.
Neither should you be, champ.
They've obviously been listening into this audio gold and decided now is the time to try and take that title.
Go on, Graves. Give your best shot.
I was going to say that they have. I listened to it today on the journey over. It was pretty good, but it was good. But it was good because it feels like they've let Graves have his own go at it, and within the first 15 minutes of the podcast, AEW had been mentioned. Kenny Omega had been mentioned by name, amongst other things. They interviewed Triple H on it, they interviewed Seth Rollins on it. The Triple H and Seth Rollins interviews weren't in character. So Seth Rollins actually talked about the fact that, as you mentioned, everybody shits on him at the moment because he's the babyface champ. But you take it back 12, 18 months, whatever it was, and he was like the internet darling at the time within WWE.
Probably quite rightly, to be fair. He was having the best matches. He was
Nothing in that regard has changed.
That's the thing.
Apart from the storyline.
That's the thing. His in-ring work it's never dropped off or anything like that. He's still good in the ring. It's just
none of this is his fault.
The material they're giving him is just fucking garbage.
So that was quite an interesting take. But when Matt was talking before, it flipped a switch in my head about the NXT thing. So people are making a big deal at the moment because the Wednesday Night Wars are happening and AEW's come and they're kicking ass in the war. Chill out, mate. It's been a month, but they are drawing better ratings. Firstly, my point would be that is based around live viewing figures, as far as I'm aware. If I'm wrong, tweet us. Tell us I'm wrong.
I think it does take into account people that tape it as well.
TiVo.
Yeah.
But they have been winning, but. The one thing that was said on the other podcast was Triple H himself had said, well, they were they didn't know how the 2 hours thing would go because they've added an extra hour every single week. But at the time, when it was the 1 hour, they only had to have 2 or 3 storylines to possibly work into 5 different matches in a takeover. But they never had time to debut anybody new. So what happened is they'd have the same, 5 or 6 matches with the same people, and then the Raw and SmackDown would come raid the roster, and they'd have to build from that point. So there'd always be almost like cold spots within NXT. Whereas now they've got an hour that they can still cram full of your Ciampa and Balor and all the rest of it, but they've actually got time to bring people through, which they didn't have before. Which is they're going to be building the stories that Matt talked about. Which I thought was a really valid point. So somebody there knows what they're doing, for a start. It's just, again, how long is it going to take for that to filter through properly?
And that is the question. I think the thing that is probably quite crucial at this point in time is it needs fresh, it needs new blood, it needs, when we're looking at a screen and on one side's Ric Flair and the other side's Hulk Hogan, and one of them can barely move, and the other one
can only move a little bit more than the other one can.
It's probably time.
He's doing the same shtick that he was doing in the 80s, and it doesn't wash. That's the problem.
Do we want to see The Undertaker in another match?
Nope.
Let's have a rematch between him and Goldberg. Oh, well, last time, didn't it?
On 2K20, it'll look about the same.
Oh, can we talk about... So,
oh, God.
So what started out as an absolute train wreck has become this entity in itself where people are now loving it because of how much of a train wreck it is. You see the thing that Sony eventually went, you can have your money back.
Yeah. Anybody that's bought it digitally, they started doing refunds for.
The kind of degloving of Becky Lynch's face was particularly harrowing.
I mean, some of the horror.
We haven't seen it.
If you're a child and you're like, oh, I've got the new wrestling game, oh, me and my mate's going to play the wrestling game, and that's what's on your screen.
You switch it on and it instantly becomes Mars Attacks the game. awful.
Let me get you a couple of beautiful pictures.
I keep seeing the clips of like glitches that people put up where like someone gets like thrown into the ropes and it just basically starts going.
Yeah. There's
Or
one.
slammed into a set of steel steps and the steel steps disappear.
Was it?
That particular crack in that one.
Was it those guys that was watching the thing where Charlotte's being laid out on the table and Becky goes to like chop her in her stomach, and every time the chop comes in, she like goes, it like teleports from the table to the ring mat back up to the table again, and then for no apparent reason Becky just starts moonwalking on her knees. It's just,
as a child, if you saw that, I mean, I honestly don't know why the brain's there.
no.
So weird.
Do we need?
It's a little weird, isn't it? By the build for it.
brain? But yeah, I mean, it when I first saw it, it reminded me of Beetlejuice. You know, when they like do the face, like like the distorting the face and stuff. There's, I mean, you know, we've got eyes above the eye sockets today. This has to be one of the best ones. The eyeball that's drifted down the face and has just kept going. And it's like down here.
It was quite funny that was like someone put up a what was it, like Red Dead Redemption 2 or something like that. This game was made at the same time as 2K20, and that the difference in graphics is like, what the fuck? Like how on earth can we still be having like the same level of graphics that was like on like SmackDown versus Raw?
WWE 2K20 is a Braun Strowman sized step back for the series. There's a little
Shots
review
fired.
there.
Well,
I mean, look at this.
it's coming to something as well when
Back beauty.
aside from all the bugs that have sort of seemed to have come out, firstly, you've got current talent that are featured in the game that are actively tweeting how much they don't look like their in-game representation. Mandy Rose was the latest one of what I've
Everyone's favourite Baron Corbin has made some comment about some steel chair thing.
seen. Paul's favourite Baron Corbin.
Yeah.
Absolutely your favourite, and that's King Corbin, please.
Baron Saxton
bonus
comments
moved over
on
to his
WWE
Baron Boner.
2K.
Byron Saxton.
Oh yeah.
But then
That's a
Byron.
Byron Saxton.
they then also announced this SmackDown 20th Anniversary Special Edition, and with a signed photo from one of three wrestlers being Edge, Mysterio and Kurt Angle, and some of the people who received the one with an Edge signed photograph in didn't. They received a photograph, just not signed. So Edge is now having to set up a PO box for people to send their stuff in, and he will then sign it and then send it back.
Fair play to him for offering.
Yeah, that is
Yeah,
good on
yes.
him. That is, it's him righting somebody else's wrong, really. But yeah. So thanks for being with us so far. If you're not tired of listening to us moan about stuff, but one thing, seeing as it's this time of year, is
You've got to see me take the bell.
well, that can be the treat to go with all the tricks so far for this time of year. Didn't know if we maybe wanted to balance it out by bringing it round with stuff that we have enjoyed from the year so far. If there's anything that's standing out, or similarly, anything you want to pan on for that a little bit more.
So, how Matt was saying earlier about none of the storylines are having like they're not panning out or anything like that. I'd say one of the big sort of like pluses from the year, it's maybe going a little bit back into last year, but was the Ciampa Gargano storyline. That just kept getting better and better, even to a point where it was like sort of, I don't think they need another match, but they've put it on and they've somehow managed to get it to a point where they didn't need the match in the first place, but the match was so good that it gave it that emphasis to, oh yeah, maybe they could just have one more. And I think obviously the payoff was going to be WrestleMania weekend. You were going to have the takeover was going to be that Gargano was finally going to beat him and become the champion. But obviously he got injured and had to relinquish the title. So he ended up winning it, not from Cole, because I know Cole wasn't a champion, but he beat Cole to become the champion and stuff like that. But that storyline was good, and just basically just the takeovers in general have maintained their high quality. That I've still not seen a takeover yet that I've not watched from start to finish and thought that was well worth the 2.5 hours that I've put into it. Whereas the pay-per-views, tough sledding at times.
I think as well they've done well, like you say, interjecting Adam Cole into that same story to then carry it through whilst Ciampa has been injured. And
I wouldn't be surprised if this time next year, or whenever the sort of PWI 500 or whatever it is that comes out, I'd be very surprised if he's not in the top 3. Because he's in fact, we might have even said it for ages that he's the person that should be building that company around.
Adam Cole?
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, it's just... I think he's, for me, and I think he's just a standout in that kind of all the things that they want. He's got, and you kind of hear, from other things that you read and other things that you hear, it's like, oh, if he was only 2 inches tall, or if he was 4 inches tall. You just think, mic skills, wicked.
Hands down.
In-ring skills.
Absolutely.
He's one of the best in the company. And he's in the, it's going to sound really kind of marky and all that kind of thing. He is the best wrestler on the best wrestling show.
Yeah.
In WWE, possibly in the world. And it's just his acting skills, it's just the way he sells things, and it's not just selling things in the ring, it's selling kind of things like, we'd said, like one of it was the first NXT show on, was it the first NXT show on telly or the second one when Ciampa came back?
It sounds like that would be something that he'd want on the first.
I think because he had the opening match with Matt Riddle as well, didn't he, for the title?
Yeah, so it was that.
Yeah.
So he had the match with Riddle. Finn Balor came out and said that he was returning to NXT. Sold that well, kind of think then.
Like the Brock Lesnar face from when they brought out Kane. Kind of the same. That it's like it's almost like a look at what you should have won kind of a deal.
So there was various bits and bobs over the last, because we had like back-to-back podcasts for like pay-per-views. We were talking about it like, we've got weeks, and then it's like, no, it's this week. And we worked out it was like 3 weeks.
We did. I do remember doing 2 within 3 weeks. It was like, Jesus Christ, that's come around quick.
Yeah.
But then it seems like that was a long time ago. And I like, from the very little that I see and can take in, there was the Finn Balor thing. And I was like, why is it saying that he's appeared on NXT? What had happened? Obviously we've already spoken about it, but not on the recording side of things. So he's gone back to NXT.
Yeah.
Obviously this is a ratings thing.
I'd say so.
Ratings, I think it's kind of outside of wrestling. I think it's a private life kind of thing as well.
Yeah.
It's kind of like in real life, he's just got married.
So this has come up a couple of times. Obviously, life changes, lifestyle changes, things like that can affect careers in certain ways. So,
but at the moment, it's cool because they're still at Full Sail every week. They're still they're not moving around the country.
It's due to change next year.
As I say, it's got to be. I mean, it seems to have been talked about on the dirt sheets, if you like, but
they've done touring before, but it was never permanent, was it?
Yeah,
it was
it's
always
like
a
house
trial
shows sort of a deal. But you'd think it's coming.
Oh, it definitely. I think it is. I've already seen something that says I think it's scheduled to start from next year. That it's going to be a touring brand rather than just being in one fixed location.
Personally, I think that's a mistake.
Massively.
Because they've got they're bread buttered on both sides. I think at Full Sail in the sense of they've got that kind of exclusivity thing where people can't get in because it's full.
I think as long if they do take it as a touring kind of thing, they've got to find venues that are Full Sail size. So you don't want to be going to your 18,000 seater arenas. No. You want to be going to the 5,000-6,000 seater kind of college basketball.
How
kind
many
of
does Full Sail though? Is that
It's not many, is it?
It's not as
It's not
Maybe
more
it's
than that.
It's a few thousand.
Is it? I don't think it was.
so.
I don't think it was that.
I don't
many.
think it's a few thousand. I'd say you'd be talking maybe 1,500 max.
It's that thing, isn't it? The easiest way to get somebody to want something is tell them they can't have it.
Yes.
Supply and demand.
So
Massively.
straight away, people are like, I want that. Because you told me I can't have it.
You want it to remain the hot ticket in wrestling.
Yeah. Sports entertainment. If you
Sorry, apologies, Vince.
I think you've got to make sure that it's, if you're going to take it as a touring brand, you take it to smaller venues and make it that, get the same atmosphere going as NXT, and make it still keep it as that like hot ticket as you said.
Well,
Just to make
it's
people-
got that indie feel to it,
Yeah.
and that's what they like about it.
Thinks that's what they're going to do.
Oh,
But
they'll-
absolutely not. As soon as Vince gets his hands on it, he'll
Oh, is that money? Is that a table?
he'll make the changes that he feels is necessary. Although I'm sure someone said he's pretty much in charge of it now that it's gone to USA?
Actual TV, then yeah, allegedly
He's got the final say on it, but I imagine you'd hope that he trusts Triple H enough to just say, "You've been doing all right with it so far. I don't need to get involved."
I know I've mentioned this a couple of times, but how involved is Vince these days?
Absolutely 100%.
Final
Every
say.
final decision to go through. So
We don't
up
see
until-
that much of him. No.
that's good though, because like you don't want him to be all over the TV product. But like when they were moving to Fox, I think it was something like up until a couple of weeks ago, there were rewrites when SmackDown was still being taped on a Tuesday, or when it was being done on a Tuesday. There was like every week it was coming out that they were rewriting the show the morning of the show.
Yeah, I mean, we mentioned that a few times.
Obviously, we haven't even covered that Bischoff's gone.
Yep. I don't know now though how much of that was just they brought him in to use him as a scapegoat.
That definitely got covered on like one or two of the podcasts that was listening to. It was like, have they sort of done it to sort of make him the sacrificial lamb, sort of like, so to speak, and stuff like that.
It's one of them. I suppose you'll never get the full story from
Gosh, you won't.
either of them, because like as much as I've enjoyed listening to Bischoff do his evening with thing with you
It was
yourself,
very good.
and again the For the Love of Wrestling last year earlier this year, sorry, when he was talking, you're only gonna get the story with the Bischoff spin on it. Probably won't believe 100% everything he said, and similarly, I don't think if it ever came out like with an official, if you like, reason why, it's only their sides in it. I don't think anybody will ever really knew what happened. But in terms of like other stuff that's been enjoyed though, and to pan them slightly at the same time, the fact that this year they actually went through with, from the back end of last year, kept the women's storylines going, kept everything hot, actually had the balls to go through with it, for want of a better expression, and give them the main event of WrestleMania. Perfectly fine with that. I think they've definitely got the talent to do it. They've still managed to keep it going. Why the fuck have we not got Evolution this year? Why did they do that as a one-off thing? It's look how great we are. We're empowering women. We're giving them all this, all this time. Yeah, not going to bother with that this year. Let's fuck it off and go to Saudi Arabia again. However, it has been announced that at Crown Jewel there'll be the first ever women's match in Saudi Arabia.
Nice.
I mean, that's quite a big thing because of
It's a
where they're going.
massive thing.
Didn't know that.
So you'd expect for the occasion it'd be a champion versus champion match, maybe. Charlotte might be involved instead.
Oh God.
Anybody want to hazard a guess what the match may be?
Right, hang on.
I know, so.
Put it this way, when they did the other one in the Middle East, it was somewhere else.
Alexa Bliss versus Sasha Banks. wasn't it?
Correct. And they had like the catsuit things on, because, fair
You
enough.
can't have bare skin.
Yeah. Again, two big names. So they have gone with Natalia,
Fair enough.
versus Lacey Evans.
Oh.
Which is a bit of a strange choice, but you
She's
never.
got more skin than all of them on show.
She might be wearing a long dress, who knows? But part of me then wonders as well, how much of that is they've thought, oh, well, we could get Sasha in to do this, or we could get Charlotte in to do this, and they've just gone, you know what, Pfft, no.
Yeah.
So, who knows? Again, probably never is it, but progress is progress. We'll see.
No, that's progress.
This is progress.
It's your round, Paul. But so yeah, so there's pros and cons with it. I'm pleased that they actually went through with it. I'm pleased that they've stuck by the guns with it. They've managed to keep a reasonable level of women's storyline going throughout the year. They've not managed to mess that up too much. So yeah, I think the women's wrestling within WWE has come on this year.
Definitely.
I think for me, it's not going to be a huge surprise. I'm very much in the simultaneously the best and at this point not is the 551 wrestling, Bray Wyatt stuff. I mean, it has been exceptional. It's been great all the way through, and in true WWE fashion, oh, there's the ball right at the very end.
Is this the point where you tell us that you've been working out to the Muscle Man dance song as well?
I have always worked. Yeah, I mean, Paul had a good point with when was the last time you saw somebody commit to a character at this level? You know, they were rolling him out to all sorts of TV programs, a lot of new stuff. No surprises, Fox News, but and he was just sticking to his guns, and it was genuinely entertaining to see. And
that weather report was spectacular.
the weather report was the best of the all.
Try to find that. I haven't seen that.
It's just when didn't he finish as well with, because it was the weekend or the week leading up to Hell in a Cell, and I don't think the weather reporter knew what to do with themselves when he finished it with the same way he's been finishing all the promos in the lead up, just waving, "See you in hell."
It was like, it's going to be hot over here.
Yeah,
It's going to be real hot over here. Because, you know, hell's warm.
it was good.
Right, cool. Yeah, it was something to be genuinely excited about, which, I mean, that seems to be the thing that's missing. You know, there's various different things at the moment that miss the crucial element for, you know, and in wrestling it's missing something to be excited about. Like I keep coming back to, we wrote better storylines in this room. And rather than going down some of those what would have been exciting paths, WWE often just goes, whatever.
Yeah.
I think one thing that gives me hope with the Bray Wyatt thing is that they've drafted him to SmackDown. Rollins is very much Raw, so unless they're going to pull some kind of weird shenanigans with this like backhanded Alexa Bliss Nikki Cross future considerations thing, I'm not sure. But whatever happens at Crown Jewel, you'd like to think that'll be the end of that particular, and that will be it. It will be on SmackDown.
Oh God, do you not?
I expect him to be on SmackDown.
They're not going to pull some sort of nonsense that Bray Wyatt's on Raw or Bray Wyatt's on SmackDown, but The Fiend is on Raw.
I don't think they could.
God, I really hope they
I don't
do
think
some
they can
sort
do
of
that.
shit like that.
One of the other theories I'd seen was that because of that trade considerations thing, was that have the Fiend win the title at Crown Jewel and then trade him back to Raw with it, so Raw doesn't lose the Universal title, but then SmackDown essentially loses the probably their most popular aspect.
Yeah.
So.
We just see what happens.
But yeah, it was, I think anybody got anything else on that?
For a treat, just everything that Chris Jericho's been doing all year. Just, I mean,
Podcast with Cameron Smith.
Making
films with Cameron Smith.
I honestly don't know how many of them are intentional, but is the bubbly thing.
Yeah.
That was just even covered it in the podcast that he did it as like a throwaway line, but it was something that he pre-planned from Dumb and Dumber. It was just a line that he did in that, and it just took off. Fastest selling shirt in Pro Wrestling Tees history or whatever. And then there was obviously the stuff about the belt getting stolen and then mysteriously getting returned, and
There was that thing on there, I think it was earlier this week or late last week, where it was like, imagine if your life was that everything you say gets turned into a T-shirt. That has pretty much been Jericho's
it's
year this year.
ridiculous, isn't it? But he's just brilliant.
The champion.
Le Champion, yeah. It's just funny.
That stuff all stems, I think, from like his podcast stuff though, because he's always had that kind of aspect where he goes into like an accent, and he's had time to bring that through.
He's always had words that he pronounces in certain ways, hasn't he?
Yeah.
Like what is it? He's always said workouts when he's talking about the DDP yoga and stuff like that. But yeah, he's just awesome, isn't he?
Something that has infuriated me beyond belief. CM Punk.
Yeah, it's the story that doesn't seem to be going away.
So, anybody who listens or watches the podcast will be no doubt calling me out on this one. When I uttered the words, and as I heard the words coming out of my mouth, I was like, that was a silly thing to say. When I'm like, absolutely no way CM Punk would say, I'm never going back to wrestling. It's there. You find it on the internet. You go, YouTube that. Do it now. Absolutely no way.
Finish listening to the podcast.
He would say that, and then go back on it. And the next day, I'm like, you motherfucker. When someone's going, so we heard a rumour that you've been at the wrestling backstage, helping out, doing various bits and pieces. What is that then? Is that just a rumour? No, that was me. I was there. I'm like, you. And then the next video I watched is him talking about the deal that he was cutting to go back to the wrestling. And I'm like, what is happening right now? And then it was, he's not going back to wrestle, he's going back to be a TV presenter for Fox, because the deal wasn't with WWE, it was with Fox. And he was going to go back and he was going to be this TV presenter, and they want this. Like Red Zone, but for wrestling.
I don't know how that's going to work.
Well, it's
like a recap with like clips, and he would basically be the presenter. And it was through Fox, and that was the loophole, how they were going to get him back and all that. And he was like, we're basically about to sign the contract, and that's it. And he's like, I can talk about it now because we're a signature away from this happening. And then the next thing, was it you that sent the message like, yeah, it's not happening.
Yeah.
It's done. It's like,
strange.
It's because then shortly after that, it was he said that he would return for a large bag, and people were like, I think we might have talked about this last time, maybe, like presumably full of money, or you just have a thing for large bags. But it's coming. I think somewhere down the line, I think he's probably come to the realisation that he's gonna get his head kicked in continuously in UFC. He's pretty good at the wrestling. He's done alright with that. And just surely the guarantee of what could be a Legends deal, or somewhere down the line a future Hall of Fame induction that may come with that. I think there's, in that situation, because of the way it went, the onus is on him to be the builder of bridges, because I think he will need the money before they need him back.
I was just thinking that, and then I thought to myself, well, is he going to need the money? Because it's not as if he's not been doing stuff.
According to interviews that he was doing around this time, he's saying that he's done X number of projects. He's talking about movies.
Yeah, he's been in films.
He's done films. He's released a comic book that's in publication.
Who knows? If you're listening, Phil, Big Phil, let us know.
Big Phil?
Yeah.
Thought we just done the football cup.
But yeah, he has. I mean, he's not had his fingers in as many pies as The Rock. But
yeah, I don't know if he's maybe just the same as any other wrestler that, like, you know, that's been away for a long enough time where he's now just getting the itch.
Get some cream for that.
Does he just want to, like, you know? Does he just want to get back into it because he misses it?
Mm.
As if they've got a more appealing product for him to go back to.
That would be.
I'll tell you something.
4.5
Adam Cole
billion
versus CM
reasons
Punk.
to go back.
Yes, I think a lot of people
I
will
mean,
see
that's the
that.
thing. You want to see Adam Cole versus CM Punk. You want to see Finn Balor against CM Punk. You want to see Ciampa and Gargano, and probably Roderick Strong, and all that kind of that stable against CM Punk. Is that going to be? Because you always stated he was the best wrestler in the company. We'll go and wrestle the best wrestlers in the company then.
I still don't feel like I know we got it a couple of times, but I still don't feel we got like a proper CM Punk Daniel Bryan payoff.
Mm.
I mean, they had the couple of matches after WrestleMania 28 and stuff, but
I think it'd be a different match now to what it would have been then because of not only of like Punk's layoff, but also Daniel Bryan's style change after his injuries.
yeah,
But yeah, I think
watch this space. I
Yeah.
suppose.
I'm pretty much done. Other than that, has anyone got anything else,
Not really.
Mr. Cook?
No, I think I've exhausted my bag of things I've seen on YouTube in the last few weeks.
It'll be interesting to see what happens towards the end of the year with like AEW once they've got a few more
Well, they've got
TV shows under the belt. And
they've
stuff.
got is it Full Gear coming up as well?
A week on Sunday,
It's
9th of October.
it's their-
9th of November.
it's their first like pay-per-view proper, if you like, isn't it? Other than
Since there.
Since they've started on
Since-
TNT.
yeah.
TNT.
TT.
They've announced earlier this week that the Jericho Cody Rhodes match is going to have judges in case it goes to a draw.
So if it lasts an hour, it will resort to the judges' scores. Something makes me think that ain't going an hour.
I don't think it will.
Weird.
No, but
I also don't think there'll be a title change.
no,
Too early.
it's good though. It deviates them from the competition. It's something different. It's people saying that these are the rules that we will stick to. So
It's quite interesting, like to see the scores as well, like win-loss records and stuff like that. It's quite.
I must admit, I've not tuned into it yet, but I imagine it's just available on the ITV hub.
yeah, it is.
Yes.
So we've had a bit of a catch up.
Yeah.
We've discovered our new champion,
Le Champion.
Le Champion, who will quite obviously be celebrating with a
little bit.
Bubbly.
I imagine we'll probably be getting back together again in time for a Survivor Series predictions show.
Yeah, Survivor Series comes up the weekend of the 23rd and 24th of November. Because
When do they come over here?
in 2 weeks,
And is that everything?
Raw and SmackDown are being filmed on the same night.
They're not bringing NXT, are they?
No, still in Full Sail. Because on the 8th of November they're doing the tapings Friday night Manchester Arena, and then Saturday morning is when I'm going to be a small child and be giggly about meeting lots of them. So yeah,
That'd be cool.
might have bit of that to report on, meet and greeting to report on next time as well.
Bring your photos.
Works for the audio. But yeah, so yeah, we'll have a get together because it'll be a bit of a bumper edition next time as well because there's
I imagine
war games as well.
Ooh, nice.
So we'll see how that pans out. But yeah,
Is there a match? Has there been any matches announced for that yet?
no.
Because I think someone was like saying, just as a one-off, just do Undisputed Era versus like Styles, Balor,
And Gallows and
club.
Anderson. Yeah,
And
I'd
like-
seen. Yeah,
Basically, jizz everywhere.
that would be cool. But
Not happening, but
It's not
We'll see.
fun. It's not got a build to it, but
if they were going to do it, they've left it too late
Yeah.
now. They've not given themselves enough time to build it up, and it's not as if they don't have,
but
the
it's
TV time.
it's
As we
not.
just discovered, they're on TV for more than enough hours in a week.
At the end of the day, it's WWE.
That's-
They could book that fucker the morning of. So we shall see.
Yes.
All right.
Very much. So
I think we're all done.
Thank you, gentlemen.
Cool. Thanks
for
very much.
the journey.
thanks, champ. Congratulations again.
Oh, fucking.
He says through gritted
I was
teeth.
going to say.
You fucking shit ourselves.
You bastard.
Right, thanks, you.
Tasted gold.
I had a taste and I like what I was tasting.
I've heard that about you.
Huh? Right.
So there you go. What do you think of that? Another one in the bag. Another one done. Another wrestling podcast. Look out for our upcoming podcasts around the upcoming pay-per-views in the future. And I hope you enjoyed this little roundup of the wrestling world as it is at the moment. YouTube watchers, make sure you're YouTube subscribers. Check us out over there. And everybody jump over to the Cookiecast.com. Check us out over there. See what we got going on. So that's it for now. And until next time, I'll say bye and I'll see you then. Bye.